Hey, Wendy Kier from the traumarecoverymethod.com. I wanted to do a series of raw videos, so no editing, just, funny windscreen wipers, just raw, in the moments, thoughts. What I'm going to share with you are extracts from my own personal journal. And I think this will provide you with a lot of insight into how I manage my own complex trauma, how I manage the difficulties in my life that I face, which is all linked to the trauma recovery method, because that's the methodology I use to heal and recover on my ongoing journey of trauma recovery and healing. So this is our garden. I live up there in that apartment at the end, so we have a sea view, but isn't it stunning? I don't know if you can hear the frog. We've got frogs. It's gone quiet now. Typical. Frogs, birds, snakes, lizards, cats, butterflies. Oh yeah, I live on Koh Chang, which I think is paradise. It's one of the most beautiful islands in Thailand, in the world, and I've travelled a lot around Southeast Asia, but this is absolutely my favourite, hence the reason why I've been here for 4 years. And I like living here because I don't, there we go, it's a place of healing for me. It's a sanctuary. I don't become as heavily emotionally triggered here. I still get emotionally triggered, but not as much being here. It's a very simple, very laid back way of life. People have time for one another. Of course you get the normal drama, but for me it is a place of healing, deep healing and comfort. So today I'm going to take you on a little journey, but I want to talk to you about something that happened to me the other day where I became emotionally triggered. I became angry, I became frustrated, I became locked into the rawness of being emotionally triggered. So I want to share with you how I have worked through that. I think it will be helpful. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about what happens when you become emotionally triggered and how you can manage the rawness of the emotions it is that you are now experiencing. This happens to everybody. I just think it is intensified when you experience trauma and you have been emotionally triggered from a traumatic event that's happened in your past. So I have my notebook here because my memory is not what it used to be. So I have copious amounts of notes. So if you see me looking down, it's just because I'm referring to my notes to make sure I give you all the information it is that I need to give you. I don't want to miss out on anything, because when you become emotionally triggered, there is a process, step-by-step process, believe it or not, that you can take yourself through that will help you understand the situation from a holistic, full perspective, rather than getting stuck in the rawness and the heaviness of the emotions it is that you are experiencing. And that's what we want. We want you to step into a place where you can acknowledge that you've been emotionally triggered, and that you can stand back, take another view at it and reframe it, and then respond differently. Because otherwise all that's happening is that you become emotionally triggered, you react from a highly charged and emotional way of thinking, and then you act out what it is that you're thinking from rawness, being emotionally charged, and ultimately being stuck in the past rather than thinking in the here and now. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So you can become emotionally triggered by many things: smells, people, someone doing something you've watched on TV, something that you think isn't fair. There are lots of things that you can become emotionally triggered by. Someone at work, the unfairness of systems. Emotional triggers are unique to everybody, but really it is something that happens, that you see, that you experience, that pushes your buttons, that raises an emotional, I guess, an emotional charge in the brain and the body, where you're like, you know, you're starting to struggle processing what's actually happening. You're starting to really slip into something that you've learned in the past that doesn't necessarily suit you now. That is the bottom line. So what have I got in here? You can become emotionally triggered at any point. Absolutely. Could be something that someone says, could be something that you've witnessed, an event that has irritated you, something that you don't agree with. So what happens for me is I start to move into, if I'm emotionally triggered by something, I start to move into emotional overwhelm. I start to feel paralyzed. My thoughts are stuck. I'm not processing information and thinking about things with a clear mind. I'm deep in my thoughts that are connected to the trauma and the experiences it is that I've had in the past. And that makes sense, right? Because our thoughts are shaped on what we've learnt in the past. But if what we've learnt in the past hasn't been good for us, it's been traumatic, then the thoughts that we're having now are not going to serve us. They're not going to help us. All they're going to do is sabotage our success. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen. So as I said, I move into overwhelm. I can become consumed by my thoughts and feelings, by the sensation in my body. I become triggered. This is when I start to go more into my head. I'm really thinking. So I don't so much have the body sensations. The body sensations I have is a bit like it's a bit like having a brick wall in front of you, and you know it's there. It's like invisible. You know it's there. You can feel it. So I guess it's another way of being, you know, when you're emotionally triggered, how paralyzed you can become by that situation. So I pretty much go into my head, and my body feels as if it's hit a brick wall. So I'm literally paralyzed in that moment. I'm sort of freaking out in my head and are consumed by all sorts of things that are going on, because the body and the mind is reacting to a trauma of the past. If it wasn't, I wouldn't become emotionally triggered to such a degree where I feel, in some respects, actually unable to cope. Although you do cope, but there is that sense of, ugh. So I'm literally paralyzed. One of the things I do to get unstuck, so I want to talk about what I do to help me get unstuck and help me see the big picture rather than being lost in that moment of emotional overwhelm and distress. So I can feel it mounting. So I want to talk about how I get underneath my thoughts and my feelings. So this allows me to understand, as I said, why I've been emotionally triggered, what's going on, and how to process and see what's happening from a different perspective. So I can ultimately get out of my way and create a different result and outcome from that's different from just staying in that emotional rawness and that emotional energy, which just doesn't help you, and it also doesn't help the other people it is that you're around. So this is really about taking responsibility for managing your own shit, ultimately. I like saying that, manage your own shit. So now, I'm not saying absolutely that this is easy. This is not easy. It's quite challenging. However, it's not as challenging as the end result if you weren't to deal with it and you were just to bury your head in the hands and just think, that's just me. And it's challenging to deal with at the time, but the results far outweigh the challenge you could otherwise find yourself in, and that constant loop of self-sabotaging behavior. So let's just say someone has said something to me and I become emotionally triggered. So it's sort of irrelevant who says it, why they say it. the fact is I have to take responsibility for my reaction to what it is that they are saying. So they've said something, it's created a response, it's pushed my buttons. They've done this unknowingly, as I said, so it's sort of irrelevant. It's more about my response and how I handle it. It makes me instantly feel confused. It makes me feel upset. I become worried. I then become angry. I feel this whole array of feelings and thoughts and emotions that I suddenly get consumed by. So this is the automatic response. This is how you get triggered. This is the automatic response, the instant response I'm feeling because I haven't addressed something that I need to look at. So let's be clear here. This happens because something is playing out in your subconscious that needs to be understood and reframed. Absolutely, completely my responsibility, not the other person's. They haven't got a clue what's going on. They don't think they've done anything. Well, they haven't done anything wrong. It's just my processing the way I've learned something, the way I'm relating it to things that have happened in the past. My brain is designed, our brains are designed to do that. But sometimes they don't work in our favour or our best interest, and that's what we need to learn to manage when we become emotionally triggered. I believe anyway, this has been the most helpful for me. Okay, this is a conscious piece of work, how we move out of a limited mindset. So it's very much a fixed mindset. It's either black or white, right or wrong, left or right, which is this emotional hijacking that plays out. It's a conscious piece of work. It's about what you have learnt from the past. So we've got to get awareness around that. You have to take responsibility for managing your emotional triggers. Absolutely. And this is what I'm going to help you to learn to do now. And as I said, it's not easy, but it is absolutely doable, possible. I do it regularly. Actually, that's not strictly true. I used to do it regularly. I don't do it as regularly now because I don't become as emotionally triggered so often because I've worked through whatever keeps coming up. So I've broken the trauma cycle, the emotional triggering of an emotional cycle, trauma cycle, which is freaking liberating, awesome, completely life-changing. And yeah, this is why I live in this fantastic country, doing what it is that I do now, because I'm able to take responsibility for what's going on in my head, which, let me tell you, I never used to be. It was always somebody else's fault. How dare they? Okay, so let me share with you what I do. So I use a combination of my trauma recovery method that it is that I have created, along with journaling and writing to help me actually process and get things down on paper so I can see the bigger picture. So combination, which will releases the damaging effects of trauma and a process that helps you to reframe the experience. This is important. It's about reframing that experience and bringing it into the here and now so you can take responsibility for what it is that you need to take responsibility for, and you can ditch the rest. You can just get rid of it because it probably doesn't belong to you anyway. Am I talking fast? I think I am. So remember, this is a combination of the trauma recovery method and journaling and writing. So you will need 2 different coloured pens and a notepad to do this. The trick is, you could come to the end of your day and you could think, actually, remember what Wendy said, that if I feel agitated by something that someone said, if I feel angry, pissed off, someone's pushed my buttons, actually maybe I can do this exercise, give it a go and see what happens. Let's face it, what have you got to lose? Not a lot, but a lot to gain. Okay, so pen and paper, 2 totally different coloured pens, and I'll explain why that is in a second. And journal. I've got my other journal with me, just to give you an example. See, look, 2 different coloured pens from when I've been journaling. It doesn't matter how messy it is. I actually say the messier it is, the better, because then you're really in the flow and you're really connecting to what it is that you're thinking. So messy or not doesn't really matter. So 2 different coloured pens, journal, and I start with one colour and I always ask myself, what's going on? How are you feeling? What's happened? And then in the different colour pen, I just write out exactly what it is that I'm thinking, exactly what it is that I want to take a closer look at. And what I'll do is I'll have a conversation with myself. So with those 2 coloured pens, the first one that I'm using is asking the questions, and the second one it is that I'm using is the one that's answering the questions. So keep going. If other questions keep coming up, answer them, but you'll get to a point where you've got nothing else to say. You've sort of exhausted your mind. This will really help you process what's going on. This is really important, having a conversation with yourself. You become your own best therapist, your own mentor. You don't need to rely on anybody else. You have the ability to mother, nurture, comfort, help yourself learn, while at the same time reshaping the thoughts and the connections in your brain that are going to help you to create a different outcome for yourself. So ask yourself the questions, have a conversation with yourself. Yep. Jot down whatever comes to mind. I've jumped ahead of my notes. Sorry. Where am I? Help. Have that conversation with yourself. Then when you're ready, start to get really specific. So this is just a general conversation around whatever it is that's happened. Then what you want to do is start to get really, really specific and get a little bit deeper into the rawness of it. Now, you're not going to re-trigger trauma here. This isn't what you're doing. You're dealing with what's in the here and now. You're dealing with the symptoms of the trauma rather than delving into the trauma. You're dealing with the problems of what's happening now. So, when you're ready, get specific. And I want you to start making a list of all the emotions you are feeling and thinking. All of them. Just get them down one after the other. Don't fill in the rest of the page. So one after the other, and then you can leave maybe a couple of lines and then do the next one, then do the next one. So for me, I said confused. So I'd put confused, and then I'd be, right, what's underneath confused? What else am I feeling? Panic. Panic, okay, great. What's underneath that panic? Anger. Brilliant. Anger. And you will feel this. You will feel the energy of it, how alive it is for you. Drop down again, frustration. Okay, brilliant. You've got a whole list, and it's like these feelings, emotions, what it is that you're jotting down, they all each have a life of their own, but they are interconnected. Very much so, but they do have a life and a different feel to them, all of their own. They have their own unique journey, but let's just focus on getting that list down first. So you've got the list down, everything it is that's pushed your buttons, how it is that you feel, what's going on, what are you thinking, what are you feeling, what sensations have you got. Then what you want to do on the opposite side of each one is then write down next to each one what it means to feel that. What does it mean to feel frustrated? What does it mean to feel angry? What does it mean to feel in panic? So let's just pick 2 here. Panic. I need to change what I am doing. Anger. What the fuck? Energetic spark consumed. So you're not going head on deep into it. You're thinking of the word panic. Okay, how am I feeling? Again, we're just getting out. We're just allowing the brain to process what it is that's playing out in your head. It's really powerful. Okay, so note each one down, how it feels. And as I said, it has a life of its own. It's layers and layers of complexity, basically, that you are feeling. It's layers and layers of learned behaviour that you've probably most likely never ever thought of or addressed of before, how it really makes you feel. So when you deal with your thoughts, feelings and behavior, I mean, that's not written very well, that's my dyslexic brain, but when you have this awareness of how it is that you are feeling, then you can take responsibility for making different decisions. Then you can take responsibility for thinking, what belongs to me, what doesn't belong for me, what is it I'm actually going to take responsibility for doing now, because you're starting to get a really clear picture. And what often happens is this has got nothing to do with the person that has pushed your buttons, upset you, made you feel angry, or the situation you find yourself in, or maybe something's happening at work. It's normally got nothing to do with that situation. It's something within you that needs to be taken a closer look at. Yeah, you can make empowered decisions. So important. So you're fully awake, you're conscious about the decisions you're making, you're conscious about what is really going on. Once you have everything down, start journaling again, because you've got insight now, a lot of insight. If you have a question that needs answering, ask the question in your coloured pen and then write the answer down in the pen that you're using to answer the questions. If you want to go deeper, go deeper. It's entirely up to you. The ball is in your court. And make a note of, now you are awake. What is it? Now you're awake. What is it that you need to let go of? What is it that is not serving you now? Sorry, I'm realizing my camera is going darker and lighter, and I know I'm a bit short. I'm actually resting on some steps. That's why my head's like it's cut off. If I stand over here though, I don't think you can hear me, hence the reason why I'm so close. Yeah, ask yourself, what is it that you need to let go of? Journal on it, write it out. And then again, what is it that you need to tell yourself? Having this knowledge and this insight around how you were feeling, and now you're taking responsibility for being emotionally triggered, it's your shit. What is it that you need to be telling yourself to get out of your own way, to help you process and manage this difficult situation it is that you find yourself in? It's really about putting the situation in context, actually giving it meaning rather than just an emotional response. Really about setting the scene. So after this conversation, what is it that you need to, as I've said, let go of? What can you take responsibility for changing? What am I going to do now? And I've just got a little note here, which is, it's so true. Change the emotional context you have with your memory, because ultimately it's your memories that are creating this emotional trigger. This will help you release your emotional trauma. Then you can take full control of your life, because you are making decisions based on what is actually true in the here and now, not based on what it is that you have learnt in the past. This is an incredibly powerful exercise. And what I found is, from doing it time and time again, is that it makes me fully aware of the situation it is that I'm finding myself in, that I could possibly be struggling with. And while I'm still dealing with the rawness of the emotions, it will help me give a different response to the situation. It will help me think, actually, what I've been thinking and feeling isn't true, so I need to now look at this situation differently and deal with it in a different way. So basically, look at the situation in a different way, say things in a different way, acknowledge how it is that I'm feeling, and take responsibility for the dynamic of what's happening. Let me know how you get on. I'd really love to know how you get on with that exercise. If you try it, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat box below. That would be absolutely awesome. But this is really, really powerful. The trick is to really acknowledge and take responsibility for when you are being emotionally triggered, when you are being emotionally hijacked. That is a learnt skill, and the more you do it, The more you play with it, the more you'll realise, and you'll go, oh shit, yeah, God. And the thing is, we think our personalities and the way we do things and the situations that we get ourselves into that repeat themselves is just the way it is. And it's only the way it is because we haven't learned to look at the situation fully and reframe it to create a different outcome, to be able to take responsibility. And you know, I never knew how to take responsibility because I just thought this is how life was, this is how I was. I'd get upset, I'd emotionally punish myself, a whole load of other stuff. But you can change it if you know how to use the tools, processes that you have at your disposal. And let's face it, this is free. This is free. So what have you got to lose to help you live a healthier and happier life, as I say, trauma-free? So I want to turn my, let me see if I can turn my camera around. I'm not sure I can. Oh, it feels like it's overheating. I just want to, let me go in the middle here. This resort is amazing. It's made of, it's made of wood. It is beautiful. The grounds are stunning. It's like, it is picture perfect. This is a 5-star resort. Each of these rooms has a swimming pool in the front room, which overlooks the mountains. But it is absolutely gorgeous. Let me just show you the view from the mountains. Stunning. See, those were the steps that I was just resting on. Check it out. Don't think, oh yeah, look, you can just see them there in the background. Oh, just so gorgeous. It's really gothic-y. It's got a real, I feel like it should be in a Dracula film. It might well have been. You never know. Could have been in a Dracula film. I just love it. Love it. Okay, I'm going to take you to my favourite place now, where I eat. Brilliant customer service. Great Thai food. Oh my god, it is so cheap. It is so cheap. But more importantly, it's good. And I just really like the people. They are they're really nice. Okay, so let's go and get some lunch. Okay, so this is where I come for my lunch, down Kai Bay. I love this place. They do the best noodle soup. Best noodle soup. Different variety of, it's my dodgy bike that I've got from the, where have I got that from? The bike man. Mine's been serviced. Lots of yummy food. So I've got egg Thai salad, which is really nice. Egg Thai salad. Yeah. Egg Thai salad. Mushrooms. This is going to be yummy. Going to finish my day off down Bang Bao. Just bought a friend some popcorn to munch on. She's in her shop at BB Divers. If I could turn my camera around, but this is the view from the office, from the back of the office. Oh, you can't really see. Hang on a minute. Oh no, it's a bit too. Here we go. It's a bit bright. You can't really see, but it's a pretty view. That's better if you don't have to look at my face. Yeah, it's nice. Down Bang Bao village on Ko Chang. The old fisherman village. Not many people here now, probably about 500 residents. With COVID and everything going on. So this is the BB dive shop. This is actually where I learnt to dive 10 years ago or so. I'm not bossy, I just have better ideas. Yes, I think that actually sums Chris up quite nicely. That's better, if you don't have to look at my face. Yeah, it's nice. Down Bang Bao village on Koh Chang. The old fisherman village. Not many people here now, probably about 500 residents. With COVID and everything going on. So this is the BB dive shop. This is actually where I learnt to dive 10 years ago or so. I'm not bossy, I just have better ideas. Yes, I think that actually sums Chris up quite nicely. So, as I said,